Hello, this is Bob McTamaney commenting on the week of Sunday, August 16th, 2026 for FLDTrader.com. I wanted to start with this chart of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We have back here in March of this year a clear 40-week trough. We know it's a 40-week trough because back then it hit a 40-week target. This is your 40-week FLD and stopped at what is a 52-week FLD. So that is at least a 40-week top. We're 18 weeks now, 19 weeks to the top from there. So this is the earliest place where you could see a market top in this index, which doesn't include a lot of the high-flying technology names, of course. I only bring it up because it's the first index to have a lower target on the next, important cycle level, the 2.5 week. So here we have our 2.5 week cycle. Our offsets are 7, 8 in terms of days. So the cycle's twice that length. And we have our first confirmed target down here of 52,983. You can see it in our cycle box. Let me make that a bit bigger for everybody. That target is now 52,969.12 to 52,941.76. For short-term traders, this would be a shorting opportunity, essentially now. There's about 1.5 points in it. But the bigger point is that, some sort of top has taken place. I'm not sure it's a market top, but, there probably is money in the short right now. And from there, we'd have to see what would happen. We'd surely get some sort of a bounce. So there's no rush to go out and sell anything beyond a tactical trading short. The other indices, have exceeded or reached all outstanding targets. So also a reason for caution. VT is the total world stock market ETF, pretty much everything. VTI is the total U.S. stock market ETF, which is the Dow, the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, and the Russell combined. Here's your SPX. This box here, clean this up, is a 10-week target. So in my opinion, we're going to see a pullback in all markets commensurate with what we see in the Dow to, at least this 10-week FLD, but more probably, back to maybe 7,500 or so. We'll see. It's definitely not time for an outright short since we don't have any confirmed targets. The only outright short that could be justified is the Dow Jones Industrial short. And I'll tell you, there's, and that is because we've only just hit some targets and in fact have room in the box. It's a time for being alert, and it's a time for caution. In terms of trying to, pick a top, we never pick a top after an all-time high. The earliest when you'd want to pick a top would be, say, 5 days, 4.4 days after a top that you think might be significant, because all these tops are going to get retested. And so there's no reason to rush. I'm on 5-day alert myself with the tactical short in the Dow. Moving on to one of the reasons that might drive a sell-off in the market that I noticed this weekend is a chart of 5-year Treasury note futures. So what we see here is that Treasuries 5-year hit a big target, a 160-week target. But then we also see that there's a lower 4-year target. So we're in an area of resistance for Treasuries. The likelihood of a move back here is very, very high. This is a confirmed target lower. It's 2%. It's 104 in the futures. That's about 5% in 5-year interest rates. The timing is uncertain. But it could be as early as now. I think we've gotten through a lot of important inflationary data. Clearly, an oil price spike would drive a move lower in Treasury futures, and this would also be a negative for stock market at some point. Interest rates are going to look highly competitive to stocks. I think in high-tech states right now, an investor, depending on their tax rate, can earn an after-tax treasury yield on treasuries of north of 10%, which brings up another kind of interesting chart that I've been monitoring for a long time. It's the inflation protected securities long term. Let's see, we have LTPZ is the best proxy. This is the longest term inflation protected securities ETF. So the TIPS, most of the bonds expire in the 2045, 2055 time zone. So we're talking about, I don't know, 20-year terms. And this ETF has just hit a 1,280 week. That's a 27-year trough, the highest Hearst cycle, which has me on high alert for a long signal. Real rates are very high in the United States, guaranteed north of 3% plus whatever inflation is. So this is an interesting area to look in the market. Of course, there are, as I said, downside targets still in the shorter end of the curve. So maybe we see some flattening as 5-year treasuries continue to sell off, to interest rates north of 5%, but the longer end of the curve stops selling off as much, or at least starts to stabilize. We'll see. But I'm on high alert for long-dated buy signals in long-dated inflation-protected securities, multi-generational bottom. And the other really interesting thing I noticed this week is, first let me just point out the dollar. The dollar has made a very interesting, what we call a bearish double top. This peak was lower than this peak. So, we pegged this at a 20-week peak here. We're now on the 20-week FLD where it's finding some support, however, across this 20-week would open up a significantly lower target down at 98. We saw some weakness on Friday in that direction. Not sure we're going to get it because some of these bigger cycles are higher, and certainly the dollar's not going to sell off a lot if 5-year interest rates are on the rise. So, I think the dollar's in a tricky spot. Cycles are pressuring down, but other factors may truncate those targets. Price may not reach those targets because of other longer dated cycles that are supporting price. I noticed this week something I've been waiting for a long time, which is Brazil. Been on a big sell-off. Just lower target around 32. This is a 10-week, that blue box. But we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down. That's when cycles end. After a 7, into a 52-week FLD. That's that line there. And so this is, and most importantly, an 18-month or 80-week FLD. 40-week still pushing lower. And then we have this very long-dated outstanding. Well, it's grayed out now, but it's probably still good. 640-week. So I am on high alert for a buy setup in Brazil right here. I think that's really, really interesting place. To look for a potential long position. I've started small positions myself. That's it for this week, August 16th, 2026. Let us know if you have any questions.